I have to admit, I don't understand the appeal. You could rule this planet in a weekend. Instead you play guardian angel. That seems like a waste of considerable resources.
A man who was given a diagnosis of death and chose to answer it by dealing death to others. I have studied your history, the lies, the murders, the people who trusted you and paid for that trust with their lives. I agreed to this meeting because I wanted to understand. I wanted to see what remains of the man you were before you became what you are now.
What I am now. You say that like it's a disease. What I am now is someone who provided for his family when the system failed him. I worked my entire life, paid my taxes, followed the rules, and when I got sick, what did I have to show for it? Nothing. No savings, no insurance that covered what I needed. A salary so pathetic my wife had to sell things on eBay. So I used my skills, I built something. I refused to apologize for surviving.
That word carries much weight when spoken by someone who caused so many others not to survive. The people who used your product. The rivals you eliminated. The child who was shot because your partner followed the plan you designed. You speak of survival as though it justifies everything that followed. But survival is not an ethic. It is a starting point. What you built on top of it is what defines you. And what you built was an empire of suffering.
That's dramatic. I manufactured a product that people chose to consume. I didn't force anyone to buy methamphetamine. I didn't hold guns to heads and demand they smoke it. Adults made adult decisions. The demand existed before me. It will exist after me. I simply provided a superior supply. 99% purity. Nothing else on the market came close. If you're going to condemn me, condemn the entire pharmaceutical industry while you're at it.
The pharmaceutical industry does not dissolve the bodies of witnesses in acid. It does not bomb nursing homes. It does not watch a young woman choke to death and do nothing because her survival would be inconvenient. You speak of choice as though your hands are clean. But you made choices too, Walter. At every junction, you chose the path that served your interests over the lives of others. The product was not the sin, the indifference was.
You're talking about Jane. I was there when she died. There's a difference. She was a liability. She was blackmailing me. She was pulling Jesse back into heroin after he'd gotten clean. Her death was a tragedy, but it was also a natural consequence of her own choices. I just didn't intervene.
I have watched beings die. In war. In battles I could not reach in time. The weight of those deaths lives in my spark, even when I could not have prevented them. You stood beside a dying girl and calculated whether saving her served your purposes. You decided it did not. And then you let her drown in her own vomit, while the man who loved her slept beside her. You speak of allowing events to unfold. I speak of a man who watched a child die and felt nothing but relief.
She was an adult, an addict, a blackmailer, and Jesse was better off without her. Everything I did for Jesse, everything I sacrificed, was to protect him, to make him stronger, to turn him into someone who could survive in the world we operated in. I was more of a father to that boy than his own parents ever were. I taught him, guided him, kept him alive when anyone else would have cut him loose.
You poisoned a child to manipulate him, Brock Cantillo, 6 years old. You put a toxic plant in his system, so that Jesse would believe your enemy was responsible. So that Jesse would become your weapon. That is not protection. That is not guidance. That is the act of a creature so devoted to his own agenda that even children become pieces on his board. You do not love Jesse. You own him. There is a difference you have never understood.
I did what was necessary. Gus Fring was going to kill me. He was going to kill my entire family. I needed Jesse on my side. The boy recovered fully. No lasting damage. Sometimes you have to make hard choices to protect the people you care about. You've fought wars. You've sent soldiers into battles they didn't come back from. Don't lecture me about the calculus of sacrifice. We've both made trades. Mine just involved different currencies.
I have led soldiers into battle. I have watched friends die for causes they believed in. But I have never poisoned a child to manipulate an ally. I have never lied to those who trusted me, about the nature of our mission. When Autobots followed me, they knew the risks. They chose to stand beside me with full knowledge of what we faced. Jesse did not choose. Jesse was deceived. Every sacrifice you describe was made by someone else. You simply decided they would make it.
You can't understand. You're a machine. You've never had a family. Never had a wife look at you with disappointment because you couldn't provide. Never had a son who saw you as weak. Never felt the clock ticking down, knowing you'd leave behind nothing but debt and pity. I had one chance to be someone. One chance to matter. And I took it. Everything I did for my family.
No, you did not. You have said those words so many times that you believe them. But I have watched the recordings. I have studied your final confession to your wife. You did it for yourself. Because you liked it. Because you were good at it. Because it made you feel alive after years of feeling invisible. Your family was the excuse, the justification you constructed so you could live with the wreckage. But Skylar knew. Your son knew. And in the end, you knew too.
I provided for them. Millions of dollars. My children will never struggle the way I struggled. They'll never feel the humiliation of working 3 jobs and still falling short. Whatever else I did, I gave them security. I gave them options. That has to count for something. That has to matter.
Your son changed his name to distance himself from you. Your daughter will grow up knowing her father was a murderer. Your wife spent years in therapy, trying to understand how she shared a bed with a monster without knowing. The money you left is a reminder of everything they lost. You could have accepted help from your former partners. They offered to pay for your treatment. But that would have meant admitting you needed something from people who surpassed you. Your pride would not allow it. So instead of swallowing your ego, you built a drug empire, destroyed your family, and left behind a legacy of ashes.